Welcome back to Hollywood Latest Reports. Joel Osteen is one of the most recognized figures in modern Christianity, not just in America but across the world. His face has appeared on television screens, in stadiums, on book covers, and across countless social media feeds. Yet one feature stands out more than anything else: his smile. The smile is ever present, almost unshakable. No matter whether he is preaching about hardships, guiding people through grief, or speaking about hope, Joel's smile is there, shining like a signature mark. This is precisely why millions have come to call him the Smiling Preacher. But behind this simple nickname lies a much deeper story, one that speaks of faith, image building, criticism, controversy, and the psychology of leadership. The idea of a smiling preacher may sound lighthearted, but for Joel Osteen, it is far from accidental. His journey to becoming this figure is filled with moments of intentional branding, personal convictions, and even public suspicion. Many people admire him for the positivity he radiates, while others accuse him of hiding uncomfortable truths behind that very grin. To truly understand why Joel Osteen became the Smiling Preacher, we must go beyond the surface and explore his childhood, his ministry at Lakewood Church, his personal life, and how that ever-present smile became both his greatest strength and his biggest controversy. The power of a smile in religion. From ancient times, spiritual leaders have understood that communication is not only about words. Body language, tone, and emotional energy play an equal if not greater role in how messages are received. A preacher's frown can create an atmosphere of fear and judgment, while a preacher's smile can cultivate warmth, trust, and encouragement. Joel Osteen took this principle and turned it into a central part of his ministry. Psychologists often argue that a smile disarms criticism, builds rapport, and makes people more receptive to ideas. Joel, knowingly or unknowingly, has applied this principle to extraordinary success. His church services at Lakewood, which attract nearly 40,000 attendees weekly and millions more online, are carried not only by his words, but by his demeanor. People feel welcomed by his expression, as though he is speaking directly to them in kindness rather than condemnation. But this choice has raised questions. Is Joel Osteen's smile a reflection of genuine joy, or is it a carefully cultivated tool designed to maintain his empire? This tension forms the foundation of why he is called the Smiling Preacher. Joel's early years. The making of a smile. Joel Osteen was born on March 5, 1963, in Houston, Texas, the son of John Osteen, the founding pastor of Lakewood Church. Growing up in a religious household, Joel was surrounded by faith, preaching, and a constant expectation to serve God's mission. Yet unlike his father, who carried a fiery preaching style, Joel was quiet, reserved, and not naturally inclined toward ministry. As a child, Joel was described as shy but warm-hearted. Friends and relatives remember that he often wore a gentle smile, even in casual settings. While John Osteen projected authority and charisma in the pulpit, Joel was more comfortable staying behind the scenes, working with television equipment and helping produce Lakewood's broadcasts. It is important to recognize that Joel did not originally set out to be a preacher. For nearly 17 years, he worked as the television producer for his father's sermons, rarely taking the stage himself. But in those years, he studied how communication shaped the church's image. He saw firsthand how television audiences responded not just to the message, but to the mood of the messenger. By the time Joel would later step into the pulpit, he already knew that presentation mattered as much as proclamation. The turning point, from producer to preacher. Joel's father, John Osteen, passed away unexpectedly in 1999. The death shook Joel deeply, not only because he lost a parent, but because he suddenly found himself at a crossroads. Members of Lakewood Church encouraged him to step into leadership. At first, Joel resisted. He had never preached a sermon in his life, but after much hesitation, he gave his first message, and something unexpected happened. The congregation responded with overwhelming enthusiasm. Joel's message was simple, positive, and delivered with a calm confidence. He did not thunder like his father. Instead, he spoke with a smile, gently encouraging people to believe in God's goodness and to see hope in their struggles. His first sermon was the spark of something new. Within a few months, Joel officially became the senior pastor of Lakewood Church. His style was radically different, but his smile became a symbol of continuity, his way of showing the church that despite the loss of his father, joy and hope would remain at the center. From that moment, the nickname Smiling Preacher began to stick, a smile that attracts millions. Joel Osteen's rise in the early 2000s coincided with a period when television evangelism was evolving. The world was shifting toward media-driven faith experiences, and Joel's smile was the perfect image for this new era. He did not preach hellfire or brimstone. Instead, he told people that God wanted them to succeed, to prosper, and to live abundantly. This message, combined with his warm appearance, attracted millions. People felt as though Joel's smile radiated approval rather than judgment. For believers weary of strict religious traditions, this was refreshing. His face on television, glowing with positivity, gave the impression that Christianity was not about condemnation, but about encouragement. His books, Your Best Life Now, Become a Better You, and others, sold millions of copies, each one adorned with his smiling portrait. Publishers understood that his smile itself was a marketing tool. Readers associated that smile with hope, motivation, and success. In essence, Joel's identity as the smiling preacher became a global brand. The critics, is the smile too perfect? But with great recognition came sharp criticism. Not everyone was convinced that Joel Osteen's smile was authentic. Detractors began to argue that his constant grin was more of a mask than a mirror. Some critics accused him of avoiding the harsher realities of faith. They pointed out that Joel rarely speaks about sin, repentance, or suffering in a traditional theological sense. Instead, he focuses on positivity and self-improvement. To them, the smile is symbolic of a watered-down gospel, a sugar-coated version of Christianity that appeals to emotions rather than truth. Others criticized him on more personal grounds. They asked, how can a man always smile, even in the face of controversy? Is it possible that Joel's expression is rehearsed, a strategic tactic to maintain his reputation? These suspicions intensified whenever scandals involving Lakewood church finances, Joel's personal wealth, or his responses to national crises came into the spotlight. For critics, the smiling preacher is not a term of endearment but one of skepticism. The Hurricane Harvey backlash, a smile under fire. One of the most difficult moments for Joel Osteen came in 2017, when Hurricane Harvey devastated Houston. As floodwaters displaced thousands, people turned their eyes to Lakewood Church, one of the largest church buildings in the city. At first, critics claimed that Lakewood had closed its doors to flood victims. Social media exploded with accusations that Joel cared more about protecting his property than helping the suffering. Although the church later opened as a shelter, and Osteen clarified that misinformation had spread, the damage to his reputation was severe. Many asked, why did the smiling preacher not step forward sooner, showing empathy in action when people needed it most? The image of his smile during televised interviews seemed, to some, disconnected from the pain of those who had lost their homes. This event became a turning point in how the public interpreted Joel's ever-present grin. Supporters defended him, insisting that his positivity was still genuine. But critics used it as evidence that his smile was a shield, one that could not hide the reality of controversy. The psychology of Joel's smile. To truly understand why Joel Osteen is called the smiling preacher, we must examine not only his ministry but also human psychology. Studies in nonverbal communication suggest that people trust those who smile more often. Smiling is associated with honesty, openness, and warmth. For a pastor who wants to connect with a global audience, this is invaluable. But psychology also warns of the smile mask, a phenomenon where individuals use smiles to conceal stress, anger, or discomfort. Could Joel's smile sometimes be this mask? It is difficult to say, but given the pressure of leading one of the largest churches in America, managing media scrutiny, and carrying the weight of criticism, it is likely that his smile is not always a reflection of his internal state. Still, Joel has remained consistent. Whether speaking about blessings, tragedies, or controversies, the smile is always there, and because it never disappears, it has become more than a facial expression. It has become his trademark. The cultural impact of the smiling preacher. The title Smiling Preacher is not only about Joel Osteen as a person. It reflects a cultural shift in how faith is marketed in the modern era. Gone are the days when preachers gained attention through fiery sermons filled with fear. In today's media-driven society, audiences respond more to positivity, encouragement, and hope. Joel Osteen embodies this trend, and his smile is the perfect visual symbol of it. In fact, his nickname has even influenced other pastors and public speakers. Many younger ministers have adopted a more upbeat, cheerful tone, hoping to replicate Osteen's success. In this sense, the smiling preacher has become more than a nickname. It is almost a brand category in itself. Joel Osteen's smile has become both his greatest asset and his most debated characteristic. For many believers, that warm expression is an anchor. They walk into Lakewood Church carrying burdens of sickness, broken marriages, unemployment, or depression, and they see a pastor who refuses to look defeated. The smile reassures them that there is still hope, that God is still in control, and that joy is possible even in the darkest valleys. It is not just a preacher smiling. It is a symbol of resilience. But on the other side, critics see danger in that very same grin. They argue that a smile which never fades can be misleading. Life, after all, is not always about positivity. The Bible itself records trials, tribulations, and deep sorrow. To constantly smile, they say, is to ignore the raw struggles of humanity. It can create a shallow faith, one that teaches believers to mask their pain instead of confronting it. For these critics, Joel Osteen's ever-present grin becomes not a light of encouragement, but a curtain hiding uncomfortable truths. The branding of a smile. The media world has also played a major role in cementing Osteen's identity as the smiling preacher. Every television broadcast of Lakewood Church focuses on Joel's calm, cheerful demeanor. Book publishers ensure that his portrait, always smiling, dominates the covers of his bestsellers. Promotional posters, advertisements, and online campaigns all rely on that single expression. Behind the scenes, marketing experts know that consistency is key.